Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
We have a lot to get to today, so we'll be asking you to put your questions in the questions section. We will answer them as we go, but we'll make sure that all of them are answered by the end of the session. The webinar is being recorded, so you will be able to see it again within 48 hours. And Jonathan has been nice enough to say that he will give us a copy and I will be sending it out to everyone. Our speaker today is Jonathan Roldan.
All right. Thank you, Cass. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, IAD, for having me on today. I'm very excited to talk about D-SNP integration. Again, my name is Jonathan Roldan. I am one of two broker channel managers here in the great state of Michigan. You can see my phone number and my email there. If you don't have the information, definitely IAD and Cass has it and can get you that information as well. For today, again, we're going to talk about D-SNP integration and today's agenda. And before that, I will pause. Let's do this. Cass will man our chat with regards to any questions you may have, and we will, because we're being recorded, let's reserve our questions to the end of the presentation so we can have a Q&A at the end, because a lot of this stuff can be very maybe monotonous. Also can be intense, and we may get your questions answered during the presentation. This is today's agenda. We are going to go over Molina Healthcare. If you don't know us, we'll give you just a little 30-second blurb commercial on who Molina Healthcare is. We will talk about the different types of integration, which includes AIP, FIDE, HIDE, and coordinated D-SNPs. We'll do a deep dive into specifically the HIDE and the coordinated D-SNPs, because in the state of Michigan, that's what's relevant today and moving forward. We will go over the monthly integrated SEP, which, spoiler alert, is not yet here for Molina Healthcare, but will be here in 2026. And then finally, which is probably what you all are going to really want to know, we will go over the great state of Michigan and market specifics, and specifically to tell you about what is currently here in 2025 and where we're going for 2026. So relative to Molina Healthcare, I'm not going to read the entire thing. You will get a copy of this, but I will point you out to the mission portion, specifically where it states mission to improve access to high quality health, or to improve access high quality health care to low income individuals and families. In essence, Molina Healthcare, which started in 1980 as a Medicaid company by Dr. David Molina, who had a passion and sought a need for the low income population, started out as a Medicaid company in Southern California. Hence, we are headquartered out of Long Beach. And you can see we are in 23 states with over 5.5 million members. So on the Medicare side, that's who we aim to serve, Medicare for the low income population. And as we take a look at this particular map, you can see our national footprint for all lines of business, which includes the aforementioned Medicaid. In fact, 80% of our revenue comes from Medicaid. Again, we are known as a Medicaid carrier first. Medicare would be next, and Marketplace as well. In most of these states, we do offer all lines of insurance, and definitely in the state of Michigan. But I would pinpoint you to the state of Georgia and Iowa, as those states are new to Molina Healthcare because we won an RFP, which stands for a request for proposal in those two states. So as we turn our attention to the national footprint, we're growing by leaps and bounds, 660 counties to 809. And to piggyback on what I just said, we can grow through a couple of different ways. One is through the RFP, where we win a bid in a particular state for a Medicaid contract. That's how we grow organically, and that's our preferred method of growing, where we grow and we build a network, hire employees, grow the Medicaid, and then typically after that, D-SNP, and then Marketplace may come a calling in that particular state. That's what we're doing in Georgia and Iowa. So look for D-SNP, a D-SNP play in those particular states in the next 1 to 3 years. We do have a new states. The blue represents our existing states for 2025 on the Medicare side. Our new states this year include New Mexico, Nebraska, and Mississippi. With Nebraska and Mississippi, well, all of them, we won RFPs for, and that's the organic way of growing. But that being said, we are not opposed to growing through acquisitions. We've done that in Wisconsin with My Choice, with California, which has been huge for Molina Healthcare over the last a year and a half with Central Health Plan, CHP. And then in the great state of Connecticut, we just purchased Connecticut. And so you'll look for Connecticut to be a state in 2026. Now we're going to go into the different types of integration. But first, answer the question, why is CMS doing this? Why is CMS doing this? And the answer is because there's been a fragmentation. As you can see there in bold letters, it occurs because organizations, namely carriers that offer D-SNPs, do not manage the Medicaid services for their enrollees. This fragmentation includes claims, such things as provider services, the network, the benefits, the care coordination. It's difficult when the carriers are different. So that being said, CMS's solution to this was to fully align the enrollment. In essence, integrating both the Medicaid and Medicare carrier, where you're getting kind of a 2 for the price of 1. So it's the same carrier, which many of the brokers don't even realize that the carriers are different. But this causes a lot of issues, especially more specifically when the D-SNP is a PPO D-SNP. So what does the timeline look like for CMS? Well, it's a 5-year period from 2025 to 2030, and we started it already nationally, where there is a use of a monthly integrated SEP. The quarterly SEP has gone away, and that's for carriers that have an integrated plan. You're allowed to use the monthly integrated SEP, but it has not hit the state of Michigan yet. In 2026, you can see the lookalike thresholds reduced to 60%, but that really doesn't apply to the state of Michigan since there's really no lookalike D-SNP plans in the state of Michigan. 2027 is a key state because our integration in this state is going to occur over 2 years, as you'll see, beginning in 2026 and then ending in 2027, where all full D-SNP enrollments will be limited to a fully aligned D-SNP integrated plan. By 2030, all states will have alignment. Everything will be integrated, and this is only going to be for full duals. So as we transition to these integrated SEPs, you will see D-SNP PPOs slowly but surely going away, partial D-SNPs slowly but surely going away, as well as coordinated D-SNPs. So they'll basically be full or they'll be not eligible for the plan as moving forward in this timeline. In this next slide, we will now go over what I call the more definition portion of this presentation. And as you can see on the right, this tells you the more integrated to less integrated type of plan. Starting with AIP and FIDE SNPs is what we're going to talk about specifically here. So first, let's talk about the AIP. And I should mention AIP and FIDE D-SNPs do not apply. Well, AIP does, but in essence, they really don't apply to the state of Michigan. But from an educational standpoint, compliance standpoint, I have to go over this with you. So the AIP plan requires an exclusive aligned enrollment, also known as an EAE. The managed care organization, known as the MCO, or basically the Medicaid carrier, typically covers Medicaid benefits that includes primary care, acute care, Medicare cost sharing support, and at least one of the following services: home health, durable medical equipment, also known as DME, or a nursing facility service. The FIDE SNP, also known as the Fully Integrated Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan, is required to have an exclusive aligned enrollment. This plan provides for Medicaid services, which include long-term services and support, known as LTSS, Medicaid behavioral health services, home health services, and DME. FIDE plans are already considered an AIP, style plan. I alluded to the EAE, which stands for the Exclusive Aligned Enrollment. Again, this is basically from the state that awards a contract to a Medicaid carrier. That's what's happening in the state of Michigan, and we'll talk about that on the last slide. But this is, if you do business in other states, this is for any other state where you have to be given a contract for Medicaid, and if you are, that's your license to sell D-SNP in that state. If you're not given a contract, it's kind of no bueno. You're not allowed to sell D-SNP, and that's why D-SNP in many states is being precluded to a few carriers, as you'll see here in the state of Michigan. HIDE is where we're going in the state of Michigan for 2026, and fully, not fully integrated, but the state will be fully HIDE. I hope I wasn't confusing anybody, but the entire state will be HIDE by 2027. So what is HIDE? Again, it stands for the Highly Integrated Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan, which provides coverage of Medicaid benefits through D-SNP with an affiliated Medicaid MCO. The HIDE SNP includes coverage for one or both the long-term services and support or the behavioral health benefits. These services must be under a capitated contract with the state Medicaid agency in the applicable state. The capitated contract may be executed directly with the D-SNP, with the D-SNP's parent organization, or with another entity that is owned and controlled by the D-SNP's parent organization. Not to confuse you, but basically, as you can see at the bottom, you have Senior Whole Health by Molina Healthcare and Passport by Molina Healthcare. So those two states, Senior Whole Health would be in New York and Massachusetts. Passport would be in Kentucky. Those are organizations that we purchased in those particular states, and they decided to keep their name. So in essence, if you have Passport by Molina Healthcare, let's say in Kentucky, integration comes to pass, basically is stating that they can use that specific name. But no need to worry, because none of that applies to Michigan, because here in Michigan, we won an RFP. We were not, Molina did not come in and purchase another carrier in the state. And hence, in the state of Michigan, we're just straight up known as Molina Healthcare, so that wouldn't be applicable. Coordination only, and this is where we are in 2025 and where we have been, at least for a while. It's always been coordination in the state since D-SNP arrived in the state 15 to 20 years ago. What is coordination? Coordinated only D-SNPs. They are D-SNPs that meet the minimum requirement that CMS requires, but do not qualify as an integrated plan, meaning a HIDE or a FIDE or an AIP on its own. The coordinated D-SNP must coordinate the delivery of Medicare and Medicaid services for its enrollees. They also must meet the information sharing requirements for the coordination between the D-SNP and the state Medicaid agency. Coordinated D-SNPs must notify or arrange other entities to notify the state Medicaid agency, individuals or entities designated by the state Medicaid agency or both, of hospital and skilled nursing facility admissions for at least one group of high-risk benefit dual eligible individuals identified by the state Medicaid agency. The coordinated D-SNP or authorized entity must comply with the state Medicaid agency's timeframe and methods for notification, and must be responsible for the authorized entity for complying with this requirement. If the coordinated D-SNP is an EAE, it can also be considered an AIP, and you as the broker can use the monthly integrated SEP. But as you can see, that's a lot of jargon to basically say you can see a why, and this kind of tells you why CMS is moving away from the coordinated D-SNP and going to an integration style plan. Let me just take a swig of water real quick. Thank you for your patience. So I akin this, if any of you sell auto insurance in the state of Michigan, we are the only state that sells, that's basically a true no-fault state. So if you're injured in an accident, you basically go through your own insurance for your injuries. And if you have what's known as coordinated PIP, the coordination is between your health insurance carrier and your auto insurance carrier. That's kind of what I kin the coordination D-SNP currently. However, we're going to an integrated D-SNP, which is akin to having full PIP or full personal injury protection, where if you're injured in an auto accident, your auto insurance carrier takes care of all your medical bills. And hence, side note, it's more expensive, but that's for another day and another time. But you can see that it's much easier when there's no coordination, okay? And so this is, again, another reason why that CMS is going to be fully integrated. It's just much easier for the member all the way around to deal with when they're dealing with one carrier. Okay, monthly integrated SEP, how and when? Now this SEP is limited only by full dual eligibles if they are moving from one integrated plan to another integrated plan, okay? So this is already in place nationally, but because there's no integrated plan in the state of Michigan, you can't use this, the integrated SEP. So what states for Molina can you currently use this monthly integrated SEP? Currently for 2025, if you do business in other states, this tells you who's FIDE, HIDE, coordinated, and AIP. To sum up, California, Idaho, Massachusetts, New York, Virginia, and Wisconsin are the states that Molina Healthcare does business in that you can use the monthly integrated SEP for 2025. All right, now we're going to hit the last two slides, which talks about Michigan in 2025 and then again in 2026. And specifically in 2025 for Molina Healthcare, here's our service area. We currently offer two plans, the Molina Medicare Complete Care, which is a full D-SNP, and the Molina Medicare Complete Care Select, which is our partial D-SNP. The blue represents our current service area, which is the same as 2024. Now, we would still encourage you to enrollments to not stop, even though there are limited SEPs. Let me mention those at this point. The disaster SEP, which has been in effect for a while in Northern Michigan, is closing as we close near the end of July. So we would highly encourage you to do business up there and use that SEP these last few days of June for July enrollments or beyond, because at the end of the month, that's going to go away. MMP, which is still currently here. If anybody has recently been disenrolled from their D-SNP into MMP, that stands for the Medicare Medicaid plan that is non-commissionable. You can still rewrite them into a D-SNP until the integration does come. Other than that, you're kind of limited to your basic ones, new to service area or new to Medicaid, new to Medicare, and they're currently on Medicaid, or gained or lost Medicaid, which you could use the full or the partial D-SNP. And then finally in 2026, and this is where I'm going to spend most of my time, This is where we see Molina Healthcare for 2026. Now we have different colors. Just to kind of show you, we're going from 2025 grade kind of around Lansing and 3 other counties, Ingham County, and then Southwest Michigan is currently grayed out. In 2026, still grayed around Lansing, but now you have the yellow for Southwest Michigan and then Wayne and Macomb. Those are colored differently because in 2026, that's where you'll be able to use the monthly integrated SEP. Everywhere else will be exactly like it is in 2025. So we mentioned MMP, and MMP is going away, and it's being replaced by the monthly integrated SEP. Hence, the colored areas in yellow and red or orange, depending upon how it's showing up on your computer screen, are current MMP areas, including the UP. Now, 9 contracts were given away by the state to sell, basically, Medicaid contracts to sell D-SNP. Only one of those carriers was for the UP, hence 8 carriers for the rest of the lower peninsula. Those 8 carriers would include the 3 state carriers, Blue Cross of Michigan, HAP, which Health Alliance Plan, and Priority Health. And 5 national carriers were given contracts, which would include Molina Healthcare, WellCare, Aetna, Humana, and United Healthcare. This is the part that gets confusing. Not all carriers were given contracts in the lower peninsula. Molina Healthcare was very blessed and fortunate to be one of the carriers that was given a contract to sell D-SNPs in the entire lower peninsula. Obviously, that'll occur in 2027. But as we look at 2026, to make it more simpler, not to confuse everybody, as we look at 2026, you have 8 carriers in Wayne and Macomb, which would be the 8 carriers I just mentioned. But in Southwest Michigan, there's only 5. So they would be all the carriers, not including HAP, Blue Cross of Michigan, and Humana. So every carrier I mentioned except those 3 will be in Southwest Michigan. And you can see the D-SNP eligibles for each of those integrated areas for 2026. Again, MMP will be going away. I believe there's 5 carriers in Wayne and Macomb and 2 in Southwest Michigan. Those carriers will get crosswalked into the integrated plans. Any of the ones that get crosswalked and stay, there would be no commission because it's basically, in essence, a plan change for that particular member. However, if you as a broker meet with a member, with a competitor of Molina Healthcare that's in one of those MMP plans, and you decide Molina Healthcare is good for them, then switching from competitor MMP into Molina Healthcare's integrated plan, you would get paid for that. As far as Molina Healthcare relative to MMP, those would get crosswalked, and as I stated before, non-commissionable if they stay. However, keep in mind, there could potentially be AOR opportunities because there is no AOR on any MMP plan as we speak. So that's pretty much the presentation. I will kind of just leave you with this. Molina Healthcare is the granddaddy of all D-SNPs. It's the Rose Bowl of all D-SNPs in this particular state. D-SNP is all we do, okay? So we are going to put our time, talent, and treasure into building up a D-SNP. And we've already been told internally that there are 7 states that they're really going to focus on. Michigan is one of those states. We are expected, and again, I don't have plan information yet. That will get rolled out to me personally, probably at the end of July to present in August. But we're expecting our integrated plan to look superb with VBID, value-based insurance design, going away, which kind of led over the last 5 years since COVID, the free money. We all know that D-SNP has really been a meat market. It's been all about give me whatever $5-10 more on that flex card. Well, that's gone. Everybody's going to need a contract based on their health, also known as SSBCI, which stands for Special Supplemental Benefits for the Chronically Ill. Molina Healthcare is a D-SNP industry leader, and really because of these changes, PPOs going away, leaning on the HMO of the Medicaid carrier, VBID going away, everybody having a contract, not contract, but everybody having to qualify for their additional benefits. PPOs going away, coordinated D-SNPs going away. Everything that CMS is doing based on this presentation leans heavily towards what Molina Healthcare already does. And Molina Healthcare is D-SNP only. That's what we naturally do because we service the low-income population. So my pleading to you guys is that Molina Healthcare should be your preferred D-SNP insurance carrier moving forward in this state of Michigan. You will have the monthly integrated SEP, but I don't really see a reason that they'll be switching based on the card because every carrier will have a card, but it's going to be about really their health, the network, the drugs, when you meet with them. And as we take a look at our competition, with a lot of the carriers retracting on benefits and things of that nature, Molina Healthcare really feels like it's really positioned to do well over the next 2 years, beginning in 2026. So we will take questions, but my last thing is to just plead with you to make Molina Healthcare your preferred D-SNP carrier beginning in 2026. So again, thank you for the time. We'll take questions with Cass, who's manning the chat.
Okay, here's a question.
Okay.
Can you review the SEPs to use right now?
Yeah, I would say and I kind of mentioned to him the most usable ones currently for D-SNP would be the disaster SEP in the northern counties of the Lower Peninsula, but those are going to only be available till the end of the month. So you probably have 4 days to use that specific SEP. If you happen to meet a member that's currently in MMP and their effective dated MMP is fairly recent, meaning within current or within the last quarter, you can move them out of the MMP into a current D-SNP plan. Other than that, you're probably just limited to new to Medicare and they're already on Medicaid, new to the service area, or lost or gained Medicaid, where you can use them, put them in either go from partial to full or full to partial. Hopefully that answers your question.
Jonathan, I don't see any other questions. I guess you did a great job covering everything.
I hope so. I hope this made a big difference for everybody there. Reach out to me. Cass can get my information to you. And I'll also be on the presentation, which I will email her when we're done. And again, thank you for the time. Again, try to make Molina Healthcare is on the rise relative to D-SNP, kind of going back to our roots. And we're really excited about the integration, which really favors who Molina Healthcare is.
Yeah, so it sounds like if you have not already contracted with Molina, it might be a very good thing to do for the coming year for the new AEP. That might be a really good thing to do to add to your group of carriers that you offer.
Absolutely.
Well, if there are no other questions or comments, thank you for coming, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everybody.